Hey, I thought I'd bring you a video today where I'm actually wearing a shirt and talking about something besides top surgery. So, during this quarantine time, I've been quite bored, like a lot of us, and I've looked back on some of my old YouTube videos, and I'm really glad that I've documented my transition because it's fun for me to look back at what I was like pre-T or even the first year of being on testosterone and just kind of what I was feeling and thinking. So, I watched one of my videos that is one of my more popular ones, and it's about self doubt about being trans. And one thing that I noticed I said in that video was that I was not experiencing a lot of dysphoria from my chest. And I found that kind of shocking because really in the last few years, every single day I felt dysphoria about my chest. And I don't understand why I could say before I started T that I didn't have dysphoria, and then all of a sudden I felt like I did have dysphoria. And I think it could be multiple reasons. I, came out as transgender a lot later in life compared to some people. I know a lot of people are coming out as a teen, and I didn't really start thinking a lot about it until I was in my mid 20s, and I didn't start transitioning until I was almost 30. So, it's hard to know. I think, like, would I have known about it when I was younger? Maybe because, like, it wasn't talked about back then. Or maybe I didn't know back then how I was feeling about my body. Like, being trans wasn't really a thing, so it's hard to know if I would have felt like that. I've been really worried through time that, like, my transition or, like, me thinking I'm trans or me being trans is because I've been socialized that way. And all throughout college, well, not all throughout, but most of college, I lived kind of like, I don't like to use this term, but an easy way to describe it would be a butch lesbian. And I dressed masculine, and that was enough for me. Um, it wasn't until later that I kind of figured out that I was feeling more less like a woman and more like a guy. But I was surrounded by other butch lesbian friends who were also going through the same thing as me, and they were transitioning. And I didn't understand how all of a sudden all of my friends were now trans men. And also a lot of the, like, partners, well, and I say a lot, I think like two or three of my partners are now trans guys as well. And I'm just like, I was like really upset trying to figure out, am I trans as well, or is it because everyone in my social circle, and I say everyone, it's obviously not everyone, but I didn't want to just do what everybody else was doing. So every part of my transition, I want to make sure that I'm doing it as an independent decision and not because I'm feeling forced by other people in the community or whatever inner dialogue or it's hard. It's hard to sort out, and I don't know if other people think about this. Um, but yeah, so looking back at that, I was just really surprised that I didn't have dysphoria. Um, but I think, as much as I think it could be a socialized thing, I think it also could be because I wasn't passing as a guy, like, at all. Um, I was going by Riley using he, him pronouns, but if I ever opened my mouth, I was immediately gendered as female, and just beyond my close circle of friends wasn't being called he. So I guess I just didn't expect it. And then when I started testosterone, and maybe about 6 months in, when my voice started changing and I started to pass a bit more, and I really started to like what I was seeing in the mirror, that I felt that my dysphoria was getting worse. And as more time passed being on testosterone, I felt my dysphoria kept increasing because I was trying to make my body like more muscular, and of course I was getting some facial hair or whatever it was, and I just felt really weird being a dude with tits, basically. So, I mean, it got to a point where, like, every single day I felt depressed about having a chest and, like, embarrassed. And, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was bad enough. Like, I know some people, like, get really, really depressed and anxious, and I wouldn't say I was, like, that bad. My mental health was okay, but I didn't feel good in my body for sure. And since I've had top surgery, I felt like amazing, and I'm so glad I have a flat chest. And I'm not saying like, oh, I wish I had like tits again, but I guess I'm just trying to figure out why did I all of a sudden get so much more dysphoria. And I do believe that it's because I've started to pass better, and maybe, having that part of my body was never something that I like tried to flaunt or show off. But it was also not something that I would say brought me depression every day like it did in the past 2 years while being on T. So yeah, just throwing this thought out there. During quarantine times, got a lot of those thoughts going on in my mind. If you've, got an opinion, if you feel the same, be cool to hear from you. And thanks for watching this video. All right, bye.